established in 2016, so it's already several years. And as Nishant said, one office is in Addebaazi, Lucknow, and one in East is a Flemish town in the northern part of Belgium. The atelier embarks upon a very range of works, from design to policy.
Yeah, and that's pretty much, and we do design experiments. So there are a number of things we actually we are busy with, and that's what we'll be sharing mostly today. And I think somebody is logged in with WhatsApp here. So we keep getting notifications. Nonetheless, so the one of the first project which we wanted to share with you is Nagaland, right? And how it happened is that I was working for UNESCO for some time, and it's on record, so I will not say that after a point there was a burnout, but nevertheless I really wanted to get back to the creative side of my profession, which is architecture particularly. And in my bachelor's thesis, I had undertaken the project of community center for weavers and craftsmen in Jharkhand, Sikhiova, about silk. So, but I never knew weaving. So that's when I decided that, okay, this is a good time to understand something which I practically think is sacred almost, and to get onto it. So I asked one of my very close friend, Abhinav Dhondial, who runs this beautiful studio in Almora by the name of Pioli, does a lot of natural dyeing and everything, and is the first person to bring back indigo dyeing in Nagaland again, to say that I want to learn weaving. Can you give me some options? He said, we have two options. You can go either for silk weaving in Assam, or you can learn weaving in Nagaland. I opted for Nagaland, apart from the fact that it's Nagaland, also because the weaving techniques are very interesting. These are backstrap looms, and the motifs are much more basic and in a way more primitive and less complicated, and it kind of has a certain basicness to it, which was very appealing. And the loom is very interesting. The loom is basically it's a bunch of bamboo sticks and wooden sticks which are put together, and you have a loom. So you just put pressure from your back, and that's why it's called backstrap loom. And then you are able to do weaving. The women there think why I say women is because I trained with Northeast Network, which is this NEN people in Chizami, which is ahead of Kohima, and only women weave in Nagaland, which I did not know earlier when I reached Nagaland. I only came to know when people started making fun of me. So because in UP, men are julaha, it's a very that kind of thing. So I did not really think about that aspect. Only when I reached there, I understood that is a bit of a thing. But it went okay. They were very kind, and they taught weaving. And then they thought that I'll probably stop after a day. That's what they expected, because after a day your back starts hurting. You have never used those muscles before, and which is required. So normally people quit. But I didn't have a choice because my ticket was much later, so I had to stay there, and I did not really intend to go back. And so I persevered, and then was able to understand also from their basic weaving techniques. First I learned how to learn basic, weave basic, and then after a point I started pushing them to teach me some motifs also, and after that we wanted to evolve. As in, because you are designer, so you want to do something different. You want to do something avant-garde and something contemporary, and that's what happened. And so the story of this weaving is, this is what I wove actually, and it started from here, and you can see the simplicity. It went to Naga motifs, which are like these, and you have to understand every time you do a motif, you have to pick up n number of threads, count them, then put the other thread up, put a bamboo stick. So it's like a binary coding, but much more complicated. So it takes immense time. I mean, I was quite slow at it. They are quite fast at it, but I was very slow at it. And then I told them I want to do a random pattern. They did not understand what do you mean by random pattern. So she taught me this, which are these 4 little dots on very nice, neatly. So I said, no, madam, this is pattern. I want something random. So she taught me another 3, which matched basically the same. So I think I understood that they don't understand randomness in weaving. Right? There is no randomness. So I said, okay, you take a break. I know enough. You can go around and please do your job. You come back after some time. And then I started doing things on my own. I took it and then I started doing random pattern. For me, it was random. So I drew this, and then when she came back, she looked at it and she said, oh, birds. So that kind of made me feel that a little, that okay, I was trying to do something new, but this existed in their culture. This randomness actually had a name, which was a group of birds. And then she went ahead and she closed it for me with these motifs, taught me these motifs. These black ones are very difficult because if you see, the others have a negative, but these motifs don't even have a negative. So you have the same, it's some technique oriented mess up stuff. So but then this represents sky and the rain. So she closed it because of my random birds. She closed it with it. So we had symbolism of earth, and then which went to birds, and it closed with the sky. And that's when we realized that we can actually shift. What we are talking is same as designers, is same language as what they talk in their everyday life. And so this was pretty much some of the pictures. It just takes a while, so you have to see the sticks and everything. And I was very proud of it. But it also led to, when I came back from Nagaland, yeah, maybe we can pass it on so you can have a feel of it. And then there was something which we wanted to learn from, which our journey continued there. And I passed on this infatuation to Vio, who took on to the color.
The color palette. Actually, these colors, what you see here in the presentation, it's the different stages of dyeing the threads. And this comes from the master thesis of Abhinav, friend of Nishant. He did his master in NID, textile design. So this is actually his documentation of color palette from different stages in dyeing. All this is bio-dyeing actually. They use metal, they use clay, earth, and roots of plants and leaves in order to get all those beautiful colors. So what inspired me actually, I mean, the Nagaland, it's very raw, like a tribe. And then this beautiful, colorful palette, I thought, why not make a painting out of it? Because I was researching for later on for a project, which is a weaving center. We had to
deeper in understanding their motives, their culture. So then I thought, okay, let's understand first their color palettes. And then I start painting. And this is actually acrylics, which again, this is how I write them down. Each color has ingredients like baking, so how much percent you have silver, how much you have blue marine, or how much you have black. So it's all written like a code. So I always put a code, so then I know when I have this color, I go back to this color using those ingredients. This much of blue, this much of yellow, this much of black. And then further on, I formed my own color palette. So you see, this is in the atelier in Diest, in Belgium. A little bit of the process behind the painting. And if you go further, this is the final color palette. What you see there on the table, on the desk, what I finalized. And with this color palette, I built the painting, which is we call the tribe. And this is the painting, which is on the wall behind, and this is the whole evolution. So actually, culture, when we design a project, a space, a weaving center, it's not just the space itself, but we go from weaving, exploring culture, colors, the culture, the textures of the place, and then that takes shape in the final project. So if I go more, in this randomness, you might think, okay, they're just some stripes and the color embedded in the Naga culture, but actually there is an order in this randomness, like Nishant was saying. So there is a rhythmic composition, which actually are all proportionate, their thickness. It's like music notes put next to each other, and it's like a group of people, and that's what the painting is about. So if you see on the left, there are like 9 stripes, then you have one big stripe in the center and 5 on the right. And the first 9, it's actually reincarnation. Let's say the 9 levels of consciousness. And then you have the soul in the middle, which is actually this present moment. So that's the past, and these 5 on the right is the 5 senses that we are equipped in this life. So in this life, whereas me as a human in this moment, I just have 5 senses. I just want to do something with them. I mean, I don't know where I'm going, where I'm coming from, but this is like a photo click. It's like, wait a second. And I see this as a meditative process. So for me, it was also like a meditation in order to understand the culture. And the soul in the center, it has the observer, so it has an eye that sees actually what's happening around actually in this life. So we don't know. So that was the painting. Now we move on to projects.
So this all happened because ultimately all this process led to a kind of our interaction with the Weavers Center, which existed there, and then suddenly, because they saw all this materialization in our efforts, they said, why don't you design a Weavers Center for us in Nagaland, this place called Desert Lake, a small village near Dimapur, and we are architects, so we jumped on this opportunity, and we said, look, we think that Nagaland missed this bus for modernism. So now you are doing concrete, but it's bad concrete. It's concrete is, as a material we are okay with, even though we come from this conservation background. We are not concrete haters. We are okay with the material because it's a quick material, it's easy to construct with it, and it's very flexible in many terms. But there is the problem is we want to avoid the excessiveness of it. We don't want to overdo the use of it because climatically it's a disastrous thing. So it has to be used very intelligently, and they also came up with the fact that why don't so we wanted to kind of empower them in a way that we give them a design and then they take it forward. Something like their organic village can grow. So we give them design one module for them because it's an NGO, they have little money, they will design one module, and then we design that module in such a way that they can take it forward from there. What they don't need us as designers. It's a loss of peace, but it's okay. I mean, in the larger sense of it's okay. So and then
this is the concept, the base concept of the program. So you can see on the top, those are actually motifs which comes back from the weaving patterns that they create in Ireland. And we have evolved from there to create like a skin cell, and each module becomes more, replicates like a skin cell on your skin, so it can grow up later. We are just proposing one module, but this module can be later used like a unique code in order to grow further. And then you see from 1 to 2 cells and then to 4 clusters. And another thing we take into consideration is the public and the private. So from outside, the light gray, the more you go in, the darker the private the space is. So this is like a transition of when you are outside, the more you go inside from the terrace, then you enter inside, then you are totally in the private space. And then you have the weaving center.
And this idea manifested into something like a courtyard sort of space, which had a very private courtyard in between and a concrete structure around, which also resembles their wooden architecture, with this very solid wooden architecture they do, with a lot of beam and post and things like that. But the infill, which what we wanted to infill it with, was bamboo weaving, because they do extremely interesting bamboo weave patterns in their facade making, in their building construction, also floors. So we gave them a frame, and they were supposed to fill it with their different weaving patterns. So they at least have 20 of them, and we wanted to use it like a showcase for the bamboo weaving pattern, also for the weavers who will work there, to inspire them. That there is and we were inviting very good artists, bamboo artists to come together to be.
It's like a hub where that knowledge is passed on to the next generation. So people come there, they learn, they have atelier, they also have a shop where to sell their products. They also have 2 BHK even for 2 family guests and a working space above. That's how it was.
And so we came.
And a restaurant, a small restaurant.
Yeah, something to hang out and this was pretty much how our solution looked like. They were very happy with our solution, and now they are fundraising to actually execute it. So we are at that phase right now, at the fundraising and execution level. And since we were delving into arts and interiors more and more because of our fascination with arts, there was another interesting project which came to our way. Why we are presenting these are the projects which we don't really always talk about. And we thought that this would be the kind of audience who would like to listen something which bizarre things what we do here a little bit. So yeah.
So I met an artist in Belgium, Lucette Mutzger. She's a painter, famous painter. She's in 73 years old and she's still creating art. And she had this client in Antwerp and she wanted to sell a painting to the client. But she didn't, the client said, okay, you have like a list of 12 paintings and I don't know which one to pick. I like all of them, but how to choose? Can you help me to choose one of the paintings for my interior? So she knew me and she contacted me. I said, can you help me out with this? I said, yes, of course. So that was the house, the apartment that was built in Antwerp. And this is how it looks. So it was just after the construction. And they wanted to see what impact has the painting inside the interior. So then I talked with the client, what is your furniture? What is the color palette in the interior? So I have reconstructed everything in 3D, keeping in eye all those details that actually are going to be, even the furniture that is the sofa there, that they bought this sofa. So everything has to be recreated as they existed. So then the painting comes in place. And how that painting, the piece of art, it will influence the space the client is living in. So that was the reconstruction. This is one of the painting actually. So you can see how it matches with the colors of everything that was in that space. So you can have like the possibility to visualize which painting to choose. This was another painting. Again, the paintings are also on scale. How big is the painting is also taken consideration. It's not just a random. Everything was 100% take dimensions and recreated in the 3D environment. This is another painting. This is another one. And finally decided to choose this one. This was the selection of the clients. And they were very happy with this kind of exercise. So they realized, okay, this is the painting I want in my space. With this color palette, with this furniture I have, with this view I have, I want these colors to match with the environment. So that was another exercise, how to understand actually the space and how actually a piece of craft can have such a big impact because they had nothing else on the walls.
And how the clients are so meticulous. They want one painting they want in their small studio and they want it perfect. So this is, the detailing is immaculate. So I think we really help them in that. And then we also came back to Lucknow to start establishing the office here more and more. My family house is in Addebaazi and there is these allotted quarters by labor department and we live in 2 of them, so neighboring 2 houses. None of us, our family member wanted to leave that place because one of my aunt is even born in that one of the house within the house. So this is like very, and I have lived there since '86. I'm 35 now, soon 36, and so we have been living there since long. And then Corona came in as well, and we thought what to do, where should we build our atelier. We were looking for all over Lucknow to find spaces to do and make our atelier, and then my family said that, see, no relatives are coming anymore, because earlier our family house used to be the shadi ghar. Like no matter you are born in Mumbai, but you will get married from this house in Lucknow. So all our rooms were full of bed and gaddas and rajai. This was like rooms after rooms of just bed, gadda, rajai. So they said that maybe it's time to, because also most of the people are married. So they said that maybe it's time to get rid of the gaddas in the deck, and maybe we can shift the guests to a hotel if we really have to host another wedding. So, why don't you take one part of the whole house and convert it into atelier? Now we are very picky, as nice we might seem. We are not very nice people, and we are horribly mean to our families about picking wrong fabric and picking plastic cover for dining table and things like that, and buying cutlery which will never be, oh come on. So so things like that. So we are not nice people, and so we said we want to make it the way we want to. Will you let us at least the facade? So they agreed for the facade part, but after half of the house, which was the part we were supposed to live in and work in, they said you need to stop. So we will do our way. So half of the house is different, but at least the facade is the way we wanted it. Now it looks clean and the way we thought it should be like. It used to look like the above picture before, and so you can imagine there was a lot of AC and there was a lot of wire and also a lot of different styles which came together. You know, typical construction, whenever needed, you construct something. And there was this little shed. They said, you can make this shed your office. And so we said, no, we want another room behind it also as an office. They kindly agreed, but very small spaces. The whole office, which has two bedrooms, one office space and a bigger kitchen, is in 800 square feet. So it's a very small, tight space, but living in Europe helped a lot because all of them lived in tight space there. So we were able to do something of it, and we made the shed as our office studio because we did not want to be disturbed by the road traffic. We did not open a window here, and instead we opened windows on the top to let us just the light in and the view of the garden which is in the back side of it. They told us this is used on bus station. Don't use this. Use a marble at least. But we said either it's terrazzo or it's coral. Nobody was available for terrazzo because Corona was happening and barely anybody was allowed. So we hosted the workers at home, and we kind of tried to create very less because the space was very less. So there's a lot of monoculture in material. The material is very minimal. No handles, because when you have handles, you see more things. There's more clutter. We wanted to get rid of it. The space was super small. I mean, it's like 10 feet wide maximum. It also gets to 9 feet at some point. And then it was a longish room. And then here to discuss the cultural part, there is always this idea of Roshandan in these Lucknow houses. So when you talk about Lucknawi houses, you always think of Roshandan. They also have one here, and so you can't really miss Roshandan because it's like a trademark sort of thing. And now, but those are for the bungalows, which have the the kind of luxury of having a park around, like a garden area around. Now this is this labor colony apartment, and this does not have that much space around to have. But we thought, okay, there are interpretations of it. Satish Gujral did it in Belgian embassy here on the right hand side. This one, also an interpretation of that Roshandan. And so we thought, why don't we interpret it our way? And we interpreted it our way. And what happens is that through this Roshandan, now this side faces the east and this side faces the west. So we get direct sun till 10, and then after that the sun stops. And then it goes the other way around, and from the west it starts coming around 3:30 to 4. So there's like a light dance happening all over that wall. And this makes the area most well lit.
So actually all this simulation of light, what you see here, is the final result, because before construction we have simulated virtually with the softwares. We geolocate the Addebaazi on the 3D model, and we tested how much sun from when till when we get it inside, because we wanted to block the south sun, the harsh sun. So we just get this pleasant light only in the morning and only in the evening. So this side where the AC is sitting there, that's actually the south. And we have blocked it fully. There it's like no opening. That's why we open those two sides, east and west. And that's why we get these stripes of light coming in. So we are blocking actually the full
And just to give you a background anecdote to it, this light which is coming right now here was calculated like this because it was my brother's haldi on that day, and we wanted that light to appear there on 28th of November, so that the photographs are nice, and that's why it has been done. So we are not nice people. But we are into detailing. And then we've also wanted to interpret the Sitkini. You can talk about
the transom window actually.
Yeah.
You see the window above, it's like almost 4 meters high. We wanted how to open, to navigate that window. So we created a transom system from down to open the window above, so we can see the system here. So we can go on the next. Those are the elements that we have designed. And it was a nightmare for the blacksmith actually to understand our design and how the mechanism works from down to get the window up open. So it was a huge struggle with the local blacksmith to make him understand, no, it has like this, it has to be like this. We made a lot of drawings, a lot of 3D models in order for him to understand the motion, how that works. So, but we succeeded in the end and we are very happy. So this is actually the...
So he did one prototype very nice, and then we told him, oh, but the central rod is too thick.
Yeah.
And he said, what do you want? It has to look graceful. It's a very small space. We can't have thick rods. You know, I mean, it's not a factory. So then I think he was very upset with us for the whole process, the fabricator. But he calls us now when he comes across a glitch in any of his work. Wherever in Lucknow he's working, if any technical issue, he will call us and say, "Kya aap madad kar sakte hain thodi?" So this, I think, and he was proud also after this. And then the whole idea of, because we are Lucknowi, we love the whole fish theory of Mahi and Mahi Mehrib, which is basically the title, and which was passed in Persia over the fiercest general. That's why this whole idea of fish comes from Farsi culture already, and they really believed in this kind of giving them title. Earlier, their fish were very fierce. They would show like piranha almost, fish-like thing. But when it came to Lucknow, and then obviously this whole mythology of Sadat Khan finding 2 pair of fish in his lap when he was traveling from Farrukhabad to Lucknow, to Awadh, actually to become the general and the Nawab henceforth. And then later there is Robert, designer guy, who actually put it on the throne when in 1815 the emperor, the Nawabs became emperor with that coronation ceremony. So fish became a fashion symbol. And so much so that and now, and then later all the gararas and shararas, they were always having this fish scale pattern, which are called mahi push, which is the back of the fish. So it kind of got into everything, so much so that our UP symbol is a fish. Lama Tenier College logo has 7 fish hanging around, and everywhere is fish. So you can't really ignore, this is just one of the iconic buildings, but there are very happy smiling fishes all across Lucknow. So we thought we cannot not have fish. But the good part was we had an earlier gate which had these 2 fish coming up. We salvaged those fish from the previous gate to keep the memory of the gate also, and to use them in a way that this whole idea, because we were quite poor when we were doing this atelier also. We are still poor, but poorer because money went there. So, and then but still we had very low budget. But of course, because we are Nawabi and we are of the Lucknow people, so we have to be celebrated. So this whole idea of having this, if you go anywhere, they ask where is this chandelier from, they'll say Belgium. This is Belgian glass. Everybody says that. If you go to Chota Mambara, wherever, and no, there was a factory in Belgium which was actually providing glass at some point, but we are still unsure about this technicality, and to be very honest. So Belgian glass. So the whole idea of having Belgian chandelier and fish to the level of almost mermaid in this small atelier was very important to us, and this is how we realized it. So there is, on the clear story, there's this fish on both sides, which actually, before you see the garden, you see these 2 fish, And there's this earlier little Belgian lamp which comes from Belgium, designed by a Belgian designer. So we kind of, our fantasy of having a Belgian chandelier in a Addebaazi space kind of got realized through this.
And the nice, beautiful morning light coming in, because that's the east side.
And then we had this amazing opportunity of working with a Romanian NGO to develop their graphical language, and Vio is from Romania, northern part as well. So that's how we got in touch with them. He volunteers for this organization called Lucknow's Romain, which came into existence after very big labels like Gucci and Prada. They started shamelessly copying Romanian motifs without giving credit to the local craftsmen or even to the country for that matter. They just went ahead and copied a little similar phenomena which recently happened when Sabyasachi started printing embroidery on H&M t-shirts. So something which happened in India also. So then Vio helped them with things.
So this NGO is actually translation Tradiții și Meșteșuguri. It means tradition and crafts from Maramureș. Maramureș is a northern part of Romania. Go to the next slide. So you can see the blue, the light blue, they're up on the border with Ukraine. That's the region where the NGO is located, and they try to raise funds for sustaining and conserving and even empowering the locals to keep their crafts and art alive and still keep their the way they were living before, to keep doing that further, because it's a sustainable way and it's nothing wrong with that. And the next map, it shows a little bit of the motifs from each region in the country, so you can see a lot of geometry patterns in the clothing and also in their house and fabrics they are using. This is a bit the landscape, the rural landscape of Maramureș. And more high in the mountains, this is the view you get. Those are the Carpathian range of mountains of Romania, where the NGO is located. So the graphical language we have done for them is actually a logo design. They wanted a logo for their NGO so that they have a shape, a form that translates their willpower, what they want to do. So we have looked into all the craftsmanship of that region. Next maybe. So you can see the pathway. That's the landscape on the right. There on the left, it's already same kind of language. People, the locals, are using it in translating in clothing. So there you can see that you have a pathway, you have houses left and right, and this how it transforms to a piece of textile with a story behind. In Romania, actually, when people are making embroidery, it's not just that shape. They put story, their own story, like if they are getting married or they are going on a long trip. So all those stories are put on the cloths. It's like a map of their own lives. And this is a vest of a man. And I want to explain a little bit before I come to the final design, the concept of the logo design. I want to explain a little bit the floral on the vest. So you can see that you have on the horizontal one you have 12 flowers, which have a split in the center. Those 12 flowers actually are the 12 months. So when it was made, it's made like 120 years ago. It's a very old vest. And when it was made, the person, the artisan, wanted to keep, to translate the rituals. So the 12 months, when are the days equal to the nights? So you see the split here. So this is the split of the equinox. Those are the 12 months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on the other side, other 6, so the whole year. The split, as I said, it's the moment, the 2 times a year when the day is equal with the night. So we have it in March and September. So they wanted to keep that that moment for them was very important for agriculture, because it's also when they plant their seeds, their weeds, and when they record it later in the September. So it's March and September. It's 2 different, very important elements in agriculture. So they wanted to keep that in a vest, so they can wear it, and all the stories are all around there. Go to the next.
So from this story, this is how the logo design came to take shape. So we kept this energy of life. So it's the pathway that each of us goes. It's like roots, it's like DNA, you can call it like Rinpoche, the infinite column, which is the DNA of the human spirit. And then is the equinox, so it divides the perfect sphere in left and right, which is day and night. And north and south, so up is north. So it's like it's a process. It's not just a shape, but it's also the story that is inside that pattern. So that was a basic sketch of them. And then we gave even a hint that this can be even as an embroidery on the textiles. It can evolve. So this kind of shape, this culture, like shape-shifting culture, it can move and can take different shape and different forms using the nowadays technology to get to the next level. So that was another one.
And they can also do the embroidery on it. So every time they do a logo, they can play with it because we gave them basic lines, so they can evolve it to whatever shape they would like to show that idea.
And this is the landscape of Transylvania. This is the shepherd with his sheep and goats, which is his own life. He also has stories. So very basic it might look like, but he also has a lot, like all of us, struggles on a different scale. So you see the logo, it's like pathway through the mountains for that Maramuresh region in order to keep alive and keep going with your own daily struggles. This is a poster we have done for them, and this is another poster we have done.
We started telling them how to use the logo to kind of tell their own story and do a branding sort of approach in their visiting. And this brings us to the last project we were going to talk about. There is a new koti in Pateriabad, a visitor center for the project Royal Gardens of Rajnagar. This was the site which was given to us, and some of us have been there. Vincent has been there as well to the site. So this site was empty first. There was a Shiva temple. There was a huge tree which we had to get rid of because it was going to fall on the temple, and then we had to conserve the temple and still come up with something like a visitor center or a space where we can do training for gastronomy, local gastronomy. This is Bundelkhand, just to give you a framework. This is right next to Khajuraho. Rajnagar is a twin town to Khajuraho, and this is very dry area and mostly agro-based. Most of India is agro-based. We don't talk about it, but we are very agro people actually, and we think as city people we have evolved beyond it, but our basic nostalgia is gaon. When we go to a village, we become happy. It's our nature. We are like oh, village, better place. Somehow something is better about that village, and no matter what you do about it, it is true. And so because this is our nostalgia, we come from that agricultural rural setup, not only to be evolved into these urban centers. And so this is a Bundeli garden from 18th century, which was used as a potager, which is produced gardens for royalty. So they would grow very incredible biodiversity seeds and something. For example, a Nawab of our gave them the sherry seed or a sapling. It will be planted in one of these gardens to be prospered, to make more trees out of it, to do gardening. So all that process, and to make more resilient crops variety like kodu, a local jowar is grown there, and things like that, to make them more drought resistant. So the whole phenomenon of biodiversity excellence and organic farming happen in these gardens. 2 of these gardens are being conserved under the project Royal Gardens of Rajnagar, which is being funded by a Belgian NGO. It's called Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage earlier, and now it's ITRHD, which is Indian Trust for Rural Heritage Development. So Belgian chapter. So the Belgians fund a lot of juice company, organic juice company fund this initiative. So we obviously became the obvious people because we are part Belgian, part Indian. So, and I speak Hindi. And Bundelkhand, though Bundeli is like close, but we are able to manage Bundelkhand on our own. So we came up, we did not, so this is the other garden we conserve, which is Rani Bagh. In this landscape which happens is all of the landscape, we give them the whole crop pattern across the year. So when you go visit a garden, it's a very curated view or experience when you are there. If it's sadly you go post-harvest, then it's your call, because then the earth is bare and it's rejuvenating. You have to give time to earth to bring before you put back life in. So this is Rajnagar, and they always have this kind of a koti next to a temple. So the idea was that we also had to make a new koti. We had the temple, but the koti was missing in our other garden where we were given the site, which was Addebaazi. So we thought, okay, how to get inspired. And then they have these beautiful step wells, baulis, which are all across this whole area, and that's how they do most of their rituals. So, but the bauli was missing in our garden. So we knew two things: the koti is missing and bauli is missing. And we have to introduce these two elements to the visitor, because why we chose Addebaazi, because it's nearest to Khajuraho. If a visitor, a tourist comes to Khajuraho, it's very easy for them to come to Addebaazi. And so we had to do it there. It was our client brief, and we had to come up with something which can kind of entice a visitor to go to the other Bundeli gardens also. And so we came up with a very simple plan. We said that we will do a nice rectangular hall, and then we thought, okay, the staircase, we can do a bauli. In bauli we go down, here we go up. This was the idea. So we ascend towards the cosmos. So we thought, okay, what else do we do? So this is south direction where the bauli is. Now what happened was, because we did the bauli in south and a staircase bauli, the shadow will always fall on the roof of the building. So the building became cooler. And then we decided, because it's an agricultural land, cement is poison for agricultural land. So we said no cement, lime only. So we decided the whole construction to be done in lime. But we wanted to also, so this is the cross section of the bauli, if you can see. And we came up with a lot of jazz around it, because it's just like, I think it's the nature of our profession to jazz things up. It has to look beautiful. It's a koti we are giving, and the competition was very tough because we had those old beautiful Bundeli koti to match with. But at the same time, we wanted to do something contemporary, because we thought that if we give them again a copy of the Bundeli koti, first of all, we don't have the craftsmanship left, so we'll do a poor job of it. Secondly, we are again telling the Bundeli people that don't evolve, stay in your own rural culture. It's like a very typical colonial attitude of British people coming and telling that you guys should have wooden elephants in your house, or at least if not a real elephant. So that's what. So we wanted to avoid that. We wanted to give them a chance to find pride in their own architecture, and it should evolve. So we came up with this was the vision we had. We had this divine light vision.
This was long ago. This image has been made in 2017, I guess. It was the first attempt to visualize the space. At that time, I was still a student at the university, so it was I had very few skills. With time it evolved, but this is basic, but it still communicates so much the space that it has been created.
So this is, remember this please, and this was our inspiration. So this koti was our inspiration. So we came up with something like this. This is our first proposal, which we gave to the client, that we will create something like this, which will be minimal. It will have material like steel, wood, lime and stone. 4 materials we started. And then it will respect all the proportions of the temple. So it derived directly all the proportions and the heights from the temple. And it was accessible for everyone. So accessibility to the building was very important for us. So we made a ramp, which is workable ramp. It's actually a slope where people can go with a wheelchair, not the slope where you kill yourself with a wheelchair. And there is no more steps, because often you go to a public building, they make a ramp and then they make 2 more steps. I don't know what they are expecting. It just defeats all logic. But so it has no steps. It had a natural slope so that the water goes away. And so we focused on this. This southern tower you can see here. This southern tower casts a long shadow on this roof, and that protects. The roof is rather high, and we made a nice clear story for the ventilation to happen. And we did it in stone. We said, let's do stone. And the stone guy we were very meticulous with because we didn't want to see columns in between. Several jalis had to be made. So what happens when you add two jalis? There is a thicker column in between because two elements of the jali ends there. So you need some sort of pilaster or a thing. So we said, no. We have to reduce it by half so that the jali seems seamless. It's like a complete one monolithic. We succeeded a little bit. Then we had bulls of our own because we do agriculture. So we made them work and then made the kind of extract from a bay, which is a fruit, which is local fruit, and surki, which is brick powder, sand, and lime, processed lime. We churned it and then we made these lime plaster, which actually the good part about lime is lime becomes stronger over time. Cement becomes weaker. Cement life is 70 years. They say it, they are not dishonest about it. They will tell you cement maximum lasts for 70 years. While in lime what happens, it oxidizes in contact with atmosphere and it becomes stronger and stronger. That is the reason why we see all these old buildings still standing. And that's why we don't see these cement buildings which happened in 50s already in bad shape. So Corbusier buildings now require conservation. You need to restore cement. It's a building which was built in 1950s. It needs restoration. So you can imagine it's not about anything, it's about the material. The material is good, but it's a very short-term material. And that's why people try to say, question it. The Bauli started happening, and around the Bauli we had space. So that space we used for storage, and we decided to pump in air from there into the hall. So because it was a cooler space. And
we have to tell them maybe that also to train the locals.
Yeah.
So that was also an exercise because we used the local force to build the structure. So we had to train them how to create the line, the right composition, even the contractor, because a huge struggle at the beginning with the contractor that has the knowledge even about line, because many times even a contractor doesn't know line compositions or how to create it. They just know concrete and there it stops. But we didn't want to use any concrete, so that was a huge struggle in the whole process.
And then we have a building like this standing right now, which was very similar to our vision, and it's all in line. And the interiors look like this. This is, if you remember, our previous first vision.
The raw, basic visualization.
So we were able to do that. The kind of doors, all of the doors are partly window, partly doors, but they are all rotating on a central pivot. So you can control the amount of light you need in the hall. And it has a permanent exhibition also right now on the right hand side about the whole project. The floor looks better. This is during construction almost, then the construction got over. And
floor got polished at the end.
Yeah, and it's a little more shiny. And also this allows you to do some exhibition, like if you have a training and you have the kids coming over. So now we are using this center for training, for women issues, for organic farming, for also education and kids. So, and gastronomy. So we'll have training sessions for local gastronomy. Bundeli food you can learn here. And of course the Bauli was happened as how we envisioned it to happen. The Kota stone kind of gives you the myth of water and confuses your senses. And here you go up instead of going down into a Bauli. And you can appreciate the landscape better. And this is a larger story which maybe Leo can tell.
So you can see there the horizontal line which became the stone jali for the craftsmanship to make sure that we don't see any columns, so it's a seamless pattern. Translates in the Jaroka, which that was an aluminium, it was metal, and it was powder coated so that it looks same color as the Kota stone. The challenge there is we wanted to use rusted steel. Corten steel, it's called corten steel, but it was not available here in India. Corten steel, it's mostly used in Europe, but in India it's available, but it was very expensive, and it was Mumbai.
Yeah, Mumbai.
So even a huge distance to get it from Mumbai to Khajuraho, it was too much cost. So then we said, okay, let's do it aluminium, and we sand coat it, It's also light because we use a lime structure. It's light for the structure. We are not going to create a heavy structure and maybe it can fall down from the wall even. So let's use it in aluminium. So that was the pattern. So you can see the two different materials. They might look different, but they share the same language, a criss-cross pattern, which is you can see it back in the culture. It's a very old pattern which comes back in textile and furniture, in clothing.
They would make jalis like that because they had thin Lucknowi bricks. So very simple to make jali, criss-cross jali. So this is where it comes from.
And this criss-cross in the Jaroka, it gives even a lot of stability because it's a self-sustaining form. It's not going to, even if one corner is weaker, this criss-cross is going to hold together everything. So it's a very stable structure. So this model, what you see here, that was before the construction got finished, is this model we got it today here with you. So you can come and look at it. Yeah, but carefully. Don't let it fall.
We were a very particular concept.
So you can see on the other side also the structure, how it was fixed inside the wall if you turn it. So look both sides. When you look at it, turn it also on the other side. So you can see the structure inside the wall, how it's kept.
And so then, what we don't know background is that now we thought, okay, we will do this criss-cross Jaroka. What we did it as well, we made a model. But that meant 761 pieces, right?
Yes, it was a huge puzzle.
761 pieces which had to be assembled together. Our contractor just gave up on us. He said that, I mean, we have pictures of him sitting and looking at these pieces on the roof and not knowing what to do. They would go and assemble it. They would go hours on the site and be on phone telling them, you don't know A2, it's A2, B2, match it with L1. Oh, because we had numbered them. Now numbering was also a disaster because we thought we can simply put first our material was earlier steel, so we had another thing in our mind for numbering. Now the contractor said he thought the powder coating will happen on site. After assembly has happened, then they will powder coat it. They said no, the powder coating will happen earlier in Ghaziabad and then we will assemble. Now earlier our plan was to put a sticker. Now this sticker failed because the powder coating had to happen. Then we came up with, these old printing press had these numbers, blocks A1, A2. So we came up with that and we hammered each number A1, A2 in each piece so that it's embossed. And that is the story of this coming together at some point.
Because it's a huge puzzle. It's a very big puzzle. And the moment they got there on site, there was a story. The contract told us. They thought they can do it without reading the drawings because everybody says, read the drawings. Some of them even they don't know how to read drawings. And it was a huge challenge for them because they opened all three Jarokas, total of 2,283 pieces, big puzzle, and they start mixing. And they didn't know anymore, if you see pieces like this, how are you going to join all of them in order to get that result? Because there it's a sequence, and in its simplicity, it's a huge complexity. So even if you keep a simple space and clean, there is a huge complexity inside. So the complexity actually it was in the details that we have used for the
and this is the evolution. If you see the Jaroka, Bunderi Jaroka, which we made into 3D, and then we started simplifying and we started changing the shape and giving a metamorphosis sort of that it evolves and becomes what you have there in your hands also. Now it's executed. It's there on the site. 3 of them have been executed within budget. So we were able to do that, and they look nice, and they look like a little bit of a bee nest also, an apiary almost that it can host, and also gives opportunity for the birds to make houses there. I mean, in one direction only, in the north maybe, because south and west gets very heated. It's metal, so we don't think so. But in general, the Jali and the Jaroka have their identity, and they create these beautiful shadows front and behind, and that's what this is the polished floor. So just to give a proof that we polish the floor, and the light comes very beautifully on the Bauli. It's a very nice space. It's a cool space also, and it's it's very nice to sit in a garden and experience it, because pictures don't do justice. When you are there in that atmosphere, it's parivesh, it's really beautiful to experience it, and we are quite happy about it. And that's pretty much what we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.